This $2 food has 16 times more magnesium than pills. It may seem incredible, but it happens every day. Many people turn to pills for solutions without realizing that a simple and accessible food can provide much more than they imagine. I am Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, and today I want to explain why this economical food, common in many kitchens, can offer a much higher amount of magnesium than many common supplements. I want to start by clarifying something important. When I talk about an economical food with a much higher amount of magnesium than many pills, I am not referring to something exotic or hard to obtain. I am talking about pumpkin seeds, a simple food overlooked by many but with surprising nutritional value. For years, I have seen older people turn directly to supplements without first considering what they are putting on their plate. Magnesium has become a very popular term, but few people understand where it really comes from and how the body best utilizes it. This is where this food makes a clear difference. Pumpkin seeds naturally concentrate a very high amount of magnesium. I am not just talking about quantity, I am also talking about quality and biodisavailability. That is, how well the body can absorb that mineral. In many cases, the body better utilizes magnesium from real foods than from pills. One reason this food is so powerful is its natural structure. The magnesium comes accompanied by other nutrients that work together. This facilitates absorption and reduces the chance of digestive discomfort that many people experience with supplements. Over the years, the body becomes less efficient at absorbing minerals. The digestive system becomes more sensitive and selective. That is why more pills do not always mean better results. Instead, a well-chosen food can make a real difference without straining the body. Pumpkin seeds also have a key advantage. They are consumed in small amounts. Large portions or drastic dietary changes are not necessary. A moderate amount incorporated regularly can provide steady support to the body. Many older people feel muscle fatigue, stiffness, nighttime cramps, or general weakness. In many cases, these symptoms relate to insufficient magnesium intake. It is not always a severe deficiency, but a daily intake that fails to meet the body's needs. This is where this food makes sense. It does not promise miracles or instant results. It offers something much more valuable: nutritional consistency. The body receives the mineral regularly and gradually, without sharp peaks or drops. Another important aspect is that pumpkin seeds do not act only on muscles. Magnesium participates in multiple body functions. It plays a role in rest, relaxation, nervous system function, and overall body balance. That is why many people notice unexpected changes when they improve their intake. The economic context is also relevant. Many older people spend money every month on supplements without knowing exactly what they are taking. This food, however, is accessible, cost-effective, and easy to find. It requires no subscriptions or constant purchases of different products. I have seen people surprised when they replace or complement their supplements with real foods, not because the food is magical, but because the body better recognizes what comes from nature. The body does not have to adapt to an artificial form of the mineral. Additionally, pumpkin seeds integrate easily into daily routines. They require no complex preparations or elaborate recipes. They can accompany usual meals without altering lifestyle. This ease increases consistency, and consistency is key in nutrition at advanced ages. Another point rarely mentioned is tolerance. Many people abandon magnesium pills because they cause digestive discomfort. Since the mineral comes from a food, it reaches the body more gently. This does not mean it is perfect for everyone, but it is usually better tolerated. Over time, small, repeated decisions create big changes. Regularly incorporating a magnesium-rich food can help sustain general well-being without depending exclusively on supplements. Always consult your trusted doctor before making significant changes to your diet, especially if you take medication or have specific conditions. Every body is different and deserves a personalized approach. I want to be clear about something. I am not saying pills are never useful. In some cases, they are necessary and helpful. What I want to convey is that many people overlook very valuable natural options, believing the only solution is in a bottle. Pumpkin seeds have accompanied human nutrition for generations. They are not a new trend. They are an ancient food that today regains meaning in a life stage where the body needs real and constant support. When you choose well what you eat, the body responds, not overnight, but progressively. More stability, better rest, and a general feeling of greater balance are some changes many people describe. This is just the first food I want to discuss. Other foods also provide magnesium naturally and effectively, but it was important to start with one that is accessible, simple, and easy to incorporate. Sometimes caring for health does not involve seeking the most expensive or complex options. It involves returning to basics, understanding how the body works, and supporting it with simple but consistent decisions. And many times, those decisions start with something as small as a seed, ignored for years but loaded with potential that the body immediately recognizes when it receives it again. Now I want to ask you something. Do you consume pumpkin seeds regularly, or had you never considered them as a source of magnesium? Leave your answer in the comments and tell me about your experience. Now I want to delve into the second food that many people overlook when seeking magnesium, especially after 60. A everyday accessible food, present for decades in daily nutrition. I am talking about the banana. For years, the banana was seen almost exclusively as an energy fruit or something for athletes. It associated with potassium, cramps, or quick physical recovery, but its role as a natural magnesium source was rarely discussed, especially in advanced ages. However, its contribution goes much further than usually mentioned. The banana provides magnesium in a context the body easily recognizes. This is especially important after 60. Over time, absorption of isolated minerals becomes less efficient. The digestive system becomes more sensitive, metabolism changes, and many supplements stop producing the expected effect. This is where the banana makes a clear difference. The magnesium does not arrive abruptly or artificially concentrated. It comes accompanied by natural carbohydrates, fiber, and other micronutrients that favor gradual utilization. The body does not need extra effort to integrate it. It assimilates it as part of a familiar food. Many older people take magnesium pills expecting quick relief. When they do not notice it, frustration appears. They change brands, adjust doses, try another formula, but rarely do they consider whether the body is really absorbing that mineral or simply eliminating it without using it. The banana offers a different logic. It does not promise immediate changes or intense sensations. It provides regularity, and after 60, regularity is much more valuable than any abrupt effect. One of the most common signs at this life stage is persistent fatigue. It is not always extreme tiredness. Sometimes it is lack of sustained energy, body stiffness, or a general feeling of wear. In many cases, these changes relate to insufficient intake of essential minerals like magnesium. Magnesium participates in basic body functions. It plays a role in muscle relaxation, nervous system balance, and rest quality. When intake is low, the body manifests it silently, and many people attribute it simply to aging. Here, the banana can play an interesting role, not as a miraculous solution, but as daily support. A simple food that, incorporated consistently, helps sustain internal balance without straining the body. Another key advantage of the banana is its ease of consumption. It requires no preparation, no drastic dietary changes, and no confusion. It integrates naturally into daily routines. This is fundamental because consistency truly makes the difference long term. Many people abandon supplements because they forget to take them or because they cause digestive discomfort. With foods, it is usually different. They integrate into everyday life, and the body accepts them better. This acceptance favors continuity and, over time, results. There is also an important psychological aspect. Incorporating nutrient-rich foods restores a sense of control. Dependence on pills alone decreases, and trust in nutrition as the basis of well-being returns. The banana is neither new nor extraordinary. Its simplicity makes it valuable. In a life stage where the body asks for coherence, gentleness, and consistency, simple foods often work best. It is not about seeking complex solutions. Many times, the support the body needs is in accessible, known, and forgotten options. The banana represents that idea, a common food but with real impact when incorporated regularly. This is the second food I wanted to develop with you, not because it is the only or best for everyone, but because it helps understand something deeper. Well-being does not always come in a bottle. Many times it starts in small decisions repeated day after day. When the body receives what it needs in a recognizable form, it responds. Perhaps not with immediate changes, but with something much more valuable. Stability, balance, and a more sustained sense of well-being over time. If this content helps you understand how to obtain essential nutrients more naturally after 60, subscribe to the channel and join me in upcoming videos where we continue caring for health with clear and practical information. Now I want to talk about the next food that many people do not associate with magnesium, but that can provide a very valuable amount of this mineral when chosen and used correctly. I am referring to pure cacao. When people hear the word cacao, many immediately think of sugar, desserts, or processed products. That is the first mistake. Cacao, in its simplest and most natural form, is very different from what is usually sold as chocolate. It is concentrated, ancient, and has a mineral profile that surprises even those who think they know it. Pure cacao has been used for centuries by different cultures not as a sweet, but as an energetic and restorative food. It was not a craving, it was part of daily nutrition. Over time, it transformed into increasingly refined products, losing much of its original value. But when recovered in its simplest form, it shows all its potential again. One of the minerals that stands out most in pure cacao is magnesium, not just for the quantity, but for how it presents itself. Like other real foods, cacao's magnesium does not arrive isolated. It comes accompanied by other components that help the body integrate it better, especially at ages when absorption is no longer the same. Many older people feel a combination of physical and mental fatigue. It is not always lack of rest. It is not always stress. In many cases, the body operates on a very tight margin of certain essential minerals. Magnesium is one of them. When that margin stretches over years, the body manifests it. Pure cacao can act as interesting support in that context. Not as an immediate solution, but as a constant and natural source. It provides magnesium progressively, without the artificial peaks sometimes caused by supplements. The body receives it, recognizes it, and uses it more stably. Another important point is that cacao is usually well accepted. Many older people reject new foods or drastic dietary changes. Cacao, however, has been part of the food imaginary for decades. It generates no rejection. This facilitates consistency, and consistency is key in long-term nutrition. It is also important to understand that cacao's magnesium does not act in isolation. It links to processes related to relaxation, nervous system balance, and general well-being sensation. That is why some people notice greater stability when incorporating it, even without seeking that specific effect. I have seen many older people take magnesium supplements without noticing big changes, not because the mineral is unimportant, but because the body no longer responds the same to isolated forms. When magnesium arrives accompanied, as in real foods, the response is usually different. Another relevant aspect is economic. Pure cacao is accessible and cost-effective. A small amount suffices for several uses. It requires no frequent purchases or expensive specific brands. This makes it a realistic option for people seeking to care for health without depending on costly products. I also want to emphasize something important. The cacao I refer to is not the kind loaded with sugar or mixed with other ingredients. That type of product not only loses benefits but can produce the opposite effect. That is why it is fundamental to understand we are talking about cacao in its simplest and most natural form. Over the years, the body appreciates supports that do not force it to adapt to extreme stimuli. Pure cacao, used wisely, provides without overloading. It does not promise miracles, it accompanies. That difference is key at this life stage. Another indirect benefit is that cacao can help reduce pill dependence, not because pills are always bad, but because many people consume them without first exploring available natural options. Recovering real foods returns to the body a more coherent way to receive nutrients. It is also important to observe how each person responds. Not everyone reacts the same. Some notice benefits faster, others more subtly. That is why hasty conclusions are inconvenient. The body needs time to show real changes. What I want to convey with this food is a broader idea. Many essential nutrients are not hidden in complex formulas. They are in simple foods displaced over time by processed versions. Pure cacao represents that return to basics, an ancient concentrated food with a mineral profile that can make a difference when incorporated with consistency and common sense. This is another example of how the body responds better when it receives what it needs in a recognizable form, not in isolated capsules, but integrated into real foods. Sometimes the key is not seeking something new, but looking again at what was always there but stopped being used correctly. Now I want to ask you something. Do you consume pure cacao regularly, or had you never considered it as a natural magnesium source? Leave your answer in the comments and tell me how your experience has been. Now I want to talk to you about another food that many people consume almost daily, but without knowing that it is one of the most constant and reliable sources of magnesium. I am referring to legumes, especially lentils. Lentils are one of those foods that almost everyone knows, but very few appreciate in their true dimension. They have been present for generations, form part of everyday cooking, and precisely because of that, they tend to be underestimated. However, when we talk about magnesium and nutrition after 60, lentils occupy a much more important place than most imagine. Over the years, diet often becomes more limited. People eat less quantity, repeat the same dishes more, and reduce variety without realizing it. This change does not always cause an immediate problem, but over time it starts to show in the form of persistent fatigue, less strength, stiffness, or a general feeling of wear. Many times it is not an illness or something serious. It is simply that the body no longer receives certain essential minerals in the amount it needs. Magnesium is one of the first to be affected in this process. It does not disappear suddenly but becomes insufficient. The body keeps functioning but with less margin, and when that margin remains low for years, the organism manifests it in different ways. Lentils provide magnesium in a very particular way. They do not do it in a concentrated and artificial manner, but constantly and balanced. This is key. The body, especially at advanced stages, responds better to sustained contributions than to intense but brief stimuli. It does not need peaks, it needs regularity. When lentils are part of the diet habitually, magnesium arrives day after day in small amounts that the organism can integrate without effort. There is no shock. There is no forced adaptation. The body simply receives what it needs and uses it in its basic functions. Another important aspect is that the magnesium in lentils does not arrive alone. It comes accompanied by other components that help the body make better use of it. This natural combination facilitates its use and reduces the problems that many people experience with isolated supplements. Over the years, the digestive system becomes more sensitive. Many older adults have discomfort, slow digestions, or intolerances that did not exist before. In that context, simple and traditional foods are usually better tolerated than concentrated or processed products. Lentils fit perfectly into that profile. Additionally, lentils provide a feeling of satiety and stability that helps regulate overall diet. When the body receives nutrients in a balanced way, energy ups and downs decrease. There are no sudden rises or abrupt falls. This contributes to a general feeling of greater well-being throughout the day. Many people seek quick solutions for fatigue or weakness. Pills, powders, new formulas. However, in many cases, the problem is not the lack of stimuli, but the lack of sustained nutrition. Lentils do not promise immediate effects, but offer something much more valuable in the long term: constant support. Another key point is accessibility. Lentils are economical, cost-effective, and easy to find almost anywhere. They do not depend on trends or specific brands. This makes them a realistic option for maintaining a mineral-rich diet without depending on continuous expenses. It is also important to highlight that lentils are part of the traditional diet of many populations that have shown good health at advanced ages. It is not a coincidence. They are foods that accompany the body throughout life and continue to be useful when the organism needs stable support. Over time, many people stop consuming legumes because they believe they are heavy or difficult to digest. In reality, in most cases, the problem is not the food itself, but the lack of habit. When the body readapts, it usually tolerates them much better than expected. Another benefit of lentils is that they do not require extreme changes. They do not demand strict diets or complicated plans. They integrate easily into habitual diet. And that ease is key, because the simpler a habit is, the more likely it is to be maintained over time. In nutrition, especially after 60, consistency weighs more than intensity. A food consumed regularly, even in moderate amounts, has more impact than sporadic or hard-to-sustain solutions. Lentils also help recover a more natural relationship with food. Instead of thinking about isolated nutrients, one returns to thinking about whole foods. The body does not function in separate pieces. It functions as a system. And when that system receives whole foods, the response is usually more harmonious. Many older people are surprised when, by improving the base of their diet, they start to feel more stable. They do not always know how to explain why. They simply notice that the day becomes a bit more bearable, that the body responds better, and that fatigue does not weigh as much as before. This type of change is not usually spectacular or immediate. It is subtle, progressive, and cumulative. But precisely because of that, it is more lasting. It does not depend on constant external stimulus, but on everyday decisions that repeat without excessive effort. Lentils represent this idea very well. A simple, known, accessible food loaded with nutritional value. They do not need advertising or exaggerated promises. Their effect builds over time, accompanying the body instead of demanding from it. In a life stage where the organism needs real and sustained support, Returning to basic foods like lentils can make an important difference, not because they are magical, but because they respond to what the body really needs: regularity, balance, and coherent nutrition. Caring for health after 60 does not always involve adding new things. Many times it involves recovering what was gradually set aside. Lentils are a clear example of that, a food that was always there, waiting to regain the place it never should have lost. When the body receives that type of support, well-being stops feeling like a constant struggle and starts to build in a more stable way, day after day, without shortcuts or forced solutions. If this type of content helps you understand how simple foods can make a big difference in your health after 60, subscribe to the channel and join me in the upcoming videos. Continuing with this list of simple foods that provide magnesium naturally, there is one that often goes unnoticed because of how common it is. It is present at many tables, but rarely valued for what it really contributes to the body, especially after 60. Spinach is one of those foods that, because it is so common, ends up losing value in the eyes of many people. It is seen as a simple side dish, something light or even dispensable. However, when we talk about magnesium and nutrition after 60, spinach occupies a much more relevant place than usually believed. Over the years, the body needs increasingly more nutritional density. This means receiving more nutrients in less food volume. Appetite is no longer the same, digestions can become slower, and portions usually reduce. In that context, foods like spinach gain special value because they concentrate essential minerals without requiring large amounts. The magnesium present in spinach reaches the organism in a natural and progressive way. It is not an abrupt or isolated impact. It is part of a food matrix that the body recognizes well. This facilitates its integration and reduces digestive effort, something key at advanced ages. Many older people experience stiffness upon waking, general fatigue, or a feeling of less body elasticity. There is not always a clear cause. In many cases, the body is functioning with a very tight margin of minerals like magnesium. It is not an extreme deficiency, but a lack of sufficient daily support. Spinach can help precisely at that point. It does not promise immediate changes or spectacular results. It provides regularity, which is what the body needs most over time. When an essential mineral arrives constantly, the organism can better sustain its basic functions. Another important aspect is that spinach does not act alone. The magnesium it provides is accompanied by other natural components that favor the body's overall balance. This combination is one of the reasons why real foods are usually better utilized than isolated nutrients. Additionally, spinach has a great practical advantage. It is versatile and easy to incorporate. It does not demand drastic changes or complex preparations. This increases the likelihood of regular consumption, and in nutrition, regularity is much more important than perfection. Over time, many older people reduce consumption of green leafy vegetables because they believe they no longer contribute much, or because they prioritize other more substantial foods. However, that decision usually impoverishes daily mineral intake without noticing it immediately. Spinach helps compensate for that imbalance. It provides magnesium gently, constantly, and well tolerated. The body does not have to adapt to a strange substance. It simply receives what it needs within a food that has accompanied human nutrition for generations. It is also important to highlight that spinach allows improving the nutritional quality of meals without increasing calories too much. This is especially useful when the body needs nutrients but not large amounts of energy. It is a smart way to nourish without overloading. Many people are surprised when, by improving the presence of mineral-rich vegetables in their diet, they start to feel a bit more stable. They do not always know how to explain why. They only notice that the body responds better, that fatigue weighs less, or that the day becomes more bearable. These changes are usually subtle but sustained. They do not appear overnight. They build over time from simple decisions that repeat. And that is where spinach fits perfectly. It does not demand extra effort. It does not require special products, only consistency. Another key point is that this type of food helps reduce dependence on external solutions. When the diet base is richer in minerals, the body has more own resources to function. This does not eliminate the need for other cares, but it does strengthen overall balance. Spinach also represents something deeper. It represents the idea that the simple remains valuable, even in a life stage where many people believe everything must become more complex. The body does not ask for extravagances. It asks for coherence. Recovering basic and nutrient-dense foods is a way to accompany the organism without forcing it. It is not about changing everything at once, but about adding small supports that, over time, make a real difference. Spinach is not a trend or a miraculous solution. It is a timeless food that remains useful when viewed with the right eyes, especially after 60, when the body appreciates everything that provides stability without demanding extra effort. And that is precisely its greatest value. In helping the body sustain itself, day after day, silently, naturally, and coherently, with what it really needs. Now tell me something. Do you consume spinach regularly, or does it usually stay out of your daily meals? Leave your answer in the comments and tell me how you incorporate it. Continuing with these simple foods that provide magnesium naturally, there is one that many people have consumed for years, but almost never for the right reason. It is associated with energy or breakfast, but rarely valued for its mineral contribution, especially after 60. Oats are that food. For decades, it was seen as something basic, even boring. However, when the body ages and needs constant supports, oats start to show a value that previously went unnoticed. Not for being flashy, but for being stable, predictable, and well tolerated. Over the years, the organism responds better to foods that do not cause surprises. Oats provide magnesium progressively, without sharp peaks or drops. That detail is key. The body no longer needs strong impacts, it needs continuity. Many older people feel they have energy for moments and then a marked drop. This does not always relate to rest. In many cases, it is connected to a diet that does not provide minerals sustainably. Magnesium plays an important role in that daily balance, and oats can help cover it without effort. Another strong point of oats is its ease of integration. It does not demand big changes or complex combinations. It is part of traditional diet in many cultures, and that makes the body recognize it well. When a food is familiar, it is usually better accepted and easier to maintain over time. With age, many people reduce the amount of food they consume. They eat less volume, but that does not mean they need fewer nutrients. On the contrary, they need nutritionally denser foods. Oats fulfill that function, providing essential minerals in a moderate portion. It is also important to highlight that oats do not act alone. The magnesium they provide arrives accompanied by other natural components that help the body function more stably. This combination means the organism does not have to make extra effort to utilize the mineral. Many people seek quick solutions for fatigue or lack of strength, supplements, stimulants, new products. But in many cases, the problem is not lack of stimulus, but lack of constant nutrition. Oats do not promise immediate results, but do offer daily support that is noticed over time. Another relevant aspect is tolerance. At advanced ages, the digestive system usually becomes more sensitive. Simple and minimally processed foods are usually better tolerated than more complex options. Oats, when consumed appropriately, usually fit well in that context. Additionally, it is an accessible and cost-effective food. It does not depend on exclusive brands or high expenses. This makes it a real option for sustaining a mineral-rich diet without permanently depending on external products. Many people are surprised when, by improving the base of their diet with foods like oats, they start to feel more stable. They do not always know how to explain the change. They simply notice that the body responds better, that the day becomes more bearable, and that fatigue does not weigh as much as before. These changes are not immediate or spectacular. They are progressive. They build over time. And precisely because of that, they are more lasting. The body appreciates receiving what it needs regularly and without surprises. Oats represent this idea very well. A simple, known, accessible food loaded with value when viewed from the right perspective. It is not a trend. It is not a miraculous solution. It is a silent support that accompanies the organism in a stage where stability is worth more than any quick promise. Caring for health after 60 does not always involve adding new things. Many times it involves revaluing the basics, and oats are one of those foods that, for always being present, stopped being appreciated. When the body receives that type of support day after day, well-being stops depending on external solutions and starts to build from within in a more coherent and sustainable way over time. And if you are interested in another important topic to care for your health and quality of life, I invite you to watch the next video. The content of this channel uses characters for educational and informational purposes, based on public sources, studies, and general research. It does not intend to diagnose, treat, or replace professional medical recommendations. Each person is different. Always consult your trusted doctor before applying any advice related to health, nutrition, supplements, or exercises.